Hey everyone, it's me Bailey and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be the best books that I've read in 2024 so far. So essentially this is just going to be a list of all the books that I've given 5 stars to this year. So far this year I've given 6 5-star reads, which I feel like is pretty good. I am pretty stingy with my 5-star reads. I feel like I'm just very particular. Like I know when a book is a 5-star, or it just has to give me like that feeling, like that 5-star feeling, or it has to be like the right book, right time in order to get a 5-star. So that's honestly like my only criteria, I guess, for a 5-star read. I have way more 5-star reads at this point than I did last year. Last year I think I had maybe 6 5-star reads the whole year, but I did have quite a few honorable mentions as well of books that I really enjoyed but just weren't quite 5 stars. But so I have 6 books here that I'm going to be talking about today. One of them is a reread, so I guess technically 5 books, but I'm going to start with the reread first and kind of get that one out of the way just because I feel like we all know what it is, and then I'll talk about the rest of the books hereafter. So the reread that I ended up giving 5 stars this year was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and honestly I feel like we're not surprised by this at all. My book club started reading this and I decided to reread it with them and annotated it this time around, and of course I ended up giving it 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars when I read it the first time back in 2018 I think was when I first read it, and have literally given it 5 stars every time I've reread it since. I just love this book, love this series, and if you have not read this book, I feel like most people have, but if you have not, I definitely recommend it. It's so good. So my first 5-star of the year is actually thanks to Maddie from Maddie Covington. She gave me this book for a video that I was filming, and it was my first 5-star of the year, and I absolutely loved this book, and that was Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. So this is a college sports romance, and we're following Ariana, and she has the biggest crush on her brother's best friend, and like their whole family and her group of friends, they go to the beach every summer, and they have this like beach house that they share. It's like it kind of gives like Summer I Turned Pretty vibes a little bit, but older. And so something happens this summer before college between Ariana and her brother's best friend, so they have this huge falling out and they are no longer friends once they end up going to college, and you just kind of follow Ariana after the events, and then she ends up meeting Noah that same summer. Noah Riley, is that his name? Yeah, so she ends up meeting Noah that same summer after everything that goes down with the brother's best friend, and so we're following Ariana and Noah through college. And honestly this book was a wild ride, but it was so fun and so good, and I definitely would recommend it. The writing wasn't the best, but the storyline and just the feeling that I got when reading this book was just 5-star, and I absolutely loved it. Next we have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, and I really enjoyed this book. I did also read this book for another video as well, and I loved this. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I read it on Kindle before I ended up buying a physical copy of it, and I feel like the hype was definitely worth it. I really enjoyed this book. If you don't know what it's about, we're following Iris, and she is a journalist, and her brother is off in this war, and so she starts writing letters to who she thinks is her brother on her typewriter, and it ends up being a magic typewriter, and the letters end up going to someone else, so it ends up not being her brother, and we're following Iris as she's getting these letters from this like magic typewriter. And honestly this book is just so good. I really enjoyed this book and would definitely recommend this book if you have not read it. It is a young adult kind of like historical fantasy, and it's honestly so good. So if you have not read this, I definitely recommend. The next book that I gave 5 stars was The Only One Left by Riley Sager, and I loved this book. The plot was plotting, the twists were twisting, the drama was had, and I really enjoyed this book. I was super surprised to love this book. I've said it a million times on this channel, but as of right now, Riley Sager has a hit and a miss for me. This is the hit, and the miss was Survive the Night, and I absolutely hated that book, but absolutely loved this one. This one we are following Kit McDear is a health aide for this woman who allegedly killed her family all of these years ago and has since had a stroke and cannot speak, move, or do anything. All she can do is tap her fingers or type. And so we're following Kit while this woman is relaying to her the story of essentially what happened back then. And it's like so atmospheric. It's like very kind of spooky vibes. It's like definitely like more of a fall read for sure, because they're in this like mansion on the edge of this cliff and it's just giving very like gothic vibes. But honestly, I enjoyed this book so much. I did guess one of the plot twists, like kind of in a sense, but it was like the opposite of what it actually was. But when I tell you, this book had me absolutely gagged, like jaw was on the floor, I was speechless. I like this book ate. Like I love this book so much and would definitely recommend this book if you have not read it. The next one is an older book, but one that I feel like deserves all of the hype and to continuously be talked about forever and ever, and that is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. So I've had this book on my shelves for years and just never ended up picking it up. I bought it around the time I think that the movie had come out, but essentially this had been on my shelves for a very, very long time. And so I did finally end up picking this book up this year when trying to like clear my TBR, kind of like just trying to read more book on my physical TBR, and read this. Absolutely loved it. Read it in one sitting. I was reading it for a 24-hour reading vlog, but I do also think that if I wasn't, I would have read this in one sitting. But this book is honestly so good. If you don't know what it's about, we're following Star, and her friend Khalil has been murdered in front of her by the cops after they were on their way home from a party one night. And so we're following Star as she's going to this predominantly white school, but she lives in a more black dominant area, and so she's kind of fighting with the hatred of police brutality and being at a predominantly white school where she feels like a lot of the people don't really understand. And so we're just following her as she's mourning the death of her friend, and this book is just so good. If you have not read this book or watched the movie, I haven't watched the movie, but I do want to. But this book is definitely so good, and I would definitely recommend it if you have not read it. And the last book on this list is definitely one that was right book, right time, and that was Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. So if you don't know, I have been in a reading slump here lately, and so this book was literally just the perfect book that I needed during my slump. I absolutely loved this book. This book had me so giddy. It had me like wanting to continue reading it. I just had so much fun with this book that it made me not want to put it down and had me feeling like I might actually be out of my slump. And I think honestly this is what got me out of my slump for real. But I really just love this book. I really enjoyed this series, and I ended up giving this book 5 stars because, like I said, it was right book, right time. And this book follows Ada, and she is a interior designer who has been hired by Weston, who is like the son of this owner of this ranch. And Weston hires her because he wants to put together like a B&B on his family's land using this like old house that they have on their land. So he brings Ada in to do the interior design and get it ready to have guests and stuff. And this was so cute, so fun. And if you have not read this book or even this series, I definitely would recommend it. It's also very short too, which is really nice. It's under 300 pages. So if you're looking for a palette cleanser, I feel like this is the perfect book for that. So these are all the books that I've given 5 stars this year. I feel like I'm having a really good reading year. I feel like I'm definitely having more 5 stars than I did last year, so I am really excited about that. If you have read any of these books and gave them 5 stars, let me know down in the comments. I would love to know. Or if you hated any of these books, let me know down in the comments. I would love to know that as well. Put a shooting star emoji if you've made it this far into the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. I will have all of my social media linked in the description, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!